And finally, Jesus is saying in verse 38, I'm going to judge the world. He's saying the future begins now. We look at life as, we have this long life, and then we're going to spend this eternity, which we can't comprehend in our minds, so we kind of sort of ignore it. And Jesus is saying, I'm going to judge, and the future begins right now. It's kind of like Maximus in Gladiator, when he says, what you do now echoes in eternity. It's true. What you do with Jesus now, or what you don't do with Jesus, echoes in eternity. Now, I'm not saying it's what you do in this life that'll save you. It's not. Your works, you can do all the good works you can. Without Jesus, you're headed for condemnation. But with Jesus, following Jesus, and now doing what you do because you follow Jesus, you spend eternity with Jesus. I'm going to steal an illustration from a man named Francis Chan. And most of you probably haven't seen the illustration unless you're in college or an avant-garde Christian. I'm going to use this little cord over here real quick, and then I'm going to close, so just pay attention. This is an extension cord. I'm going to shock myself up here. No, I'm just kidding. This, by the way, is where my wife cut it with the clippers. This extension cord, it's pretty long. It's the longest extension cord that I have in my house. And I want you to imagine that this extension cord, if it's stretching from here, imagine it going all the way around the building, and then it's a timeline. Now, a lot of us would take a look at that and say, yeah, okay, now imagine that this is a timeline of your life, all right? The whole thing, all 70, 80 years, 90 if you're lucky, if you're blessed, whatever it might be. And then along the way, some of you look at this timeline, you say, okay, yeah, this is where I was born, over here. This is where I went to high school, is over here. This is where I went to college, over here. This is where I got married. This is where I had children, and then we had children, then children, then children, then children, then children. And we planted a church right after having a child. And that's our timeline. But here's the deal with this timeline. You see, this is not an appropriate to scale timeline. This right here, that is your life. Right there. And we spend all kinds of time on this little mark right here. And a lot of you spend a lot of time planning on what you're going to do for this last piece of the mark right here. So you're going to save all your money, and you're going to, work really hard so that those last couple of years you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Go play golf, live in Florida, California, get away from your kids, whatever it is. And we spend all kinds of time right here. What Jesus is saying is this little mark affects all of this. This is eternity. And we're spending all kinds of time on that tiny, tiny little mark, not realizing that every decision that we make affects what happens in eternity. Now, I am by no means saying, for you gospel critics, that you're going to do all kinds of good things in this world, and that affects you in eternity. Without Jesus, that eternity should have been in the pit of destruction underneath of here. But with Jesus, everything you do now is rewarded when you do it in His name. What are you doing with this? What are you doing right now with this? Some of you only have this much left. Some of you only have a speck of this left. Some of you won't be here next year. What are you doing with it? Are you following after Jesus? Have you reached the turning point this morning? Is your faith a life insurance policy, or is it total commitment to follow Jesus? Get back to the basics. Get back to Jesus. Pursue Jesus. Deny yourself. Claim the cross of Jesus Christ as your own.